What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Early Edge. We are not even 2 weeks past Super Bowl 60, which means it's the perfect time to talk about futures for the next season. Larry Hartstein, Will Brinson, RJ White, Caludia Bellofatto with you. Yes, it is early, people. We are fully aware. But that's why we're calling this the way too early NFL future show. We're going to break down why you should bet on some teams at this point in the season before the free agency madness, and just talk about some value that we see on the board and really just get all together. Hopefully you guys had a better Super Bowl than I did as a Patriots fan. Our Super Bowl 60 winner is the Seattle Seahawks. Will, are you happy? Are you happy to see the Pats go down?
Yeah, Drake May lost. Matthew Stafford was proven to be the real MVP. And then on Tuesday night, NC State beat North Carolina by 24 points in basketball. So, go. I'm going to show up to the Scouts thing on Friday in a Sam Darnold jersey and tell everybody they're too short.
I had under 1.5 minutes for Will to reference that game, so I think I passed
that line is way too high. That would have been an alt line minus 700.
Larry, how are we feeling heading into this way too early NFL future show?
I'm feeling pretty good, but it was RJ who came from all the way back to defeat me in our playoff betting contest, came from way off the board. I had that thing locked up. I choked in the Super Bowl. I had the side in the total, but I missed on a lot of my props. So congrats to RJ for doing that.
Well, it was a tough Super Bowl to sort of narrow down. I'm just happy as a Pats fan that the Pats even made it there, but clearly they were mismatched, however you want to call it. They were outmatched on both sides of the ball, and it came to fruition there. So unfortunate for the Pats. They're still up there in the odds. I don't know, Ben, our lovely producer, if we do have a graphic. I probably should have asked you that before. If we have a graphic, throw it up. If not, you'll know right now that the Seahawks are at 8-1 right now, the favorite for Super Bowl 61. I guess my question is, and I want to talk about the Pats too, but on the Seahawks side first, is the makeup of this team enough to make the Super Bowl in back-to-back seasons, Larry?
You know, they are positioned very well. They lose their OC, of course, but they have a good replacement from San Francisco. Brian Fleury reported to get the job. He's already worked with Sam Darnold. He's a run game coordinator, so you know they're going to stick with the run-first approach. And they really only have 6 key free agents, talking about Kenneth Walker, Rashid Shaheed on the offensive side, and then 3 defensive backs plus Mafe. They have to get him signed. But I think they're in great shape. They have the 4th most cap space. They have basically all the core guys coming back. So I don't think there's a ton of value at 8-1 or 9-1. It's so tough to repeat. The Rams are going to be right there, the Eagles, the Packers, but they are positioned very well.
Yep, you mentioned some of those names that Ben just pulled up for us on that graphic. RJ, what are you thinking?
Yeah, the Seahawks, I mean, roster-wise, it looks great, right? They're very well positioned. I love Mike McDonald as a head coach. Loved him coming into that situation last year. Was very high on him last year, last year being 2024. Should have been higher on him this year, obviously, with the questions on Sam Darnold. But Sam Darnold's proven it, right? And we kind of know that he is capable of doing this. So my biggest hang up with the Seahawks is Clint Kubiak's departure. You know, I know the scheme is going to be somewhat similar. They're getting, like Larry said, the run guy in there. And Darnold probably is going to be fine moving forward. But Kubiak, I mean, you go back to what he did in New Orleans those first couple of weeks before Derek Carr's injury. He was incredible, right? And then he goes to the Seattle job, and he is incredible there. And now he's gone to the Raiders to be their head coach. So you don't get offensive coordinators like that, all the time, So if he is the top of his profession at that position, that's a hard guy to replace. So my question with them is, will the offense be able to reach those heights without him? And it might not even have to. The defense just might be that good.
Agreement. Also, Kenneth Walker is going to be a free agent. It doesn't look like they're going to franchise tag him. What are your thoughts, Will Brinson?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd echo what RJ said. You can even go back as far as, kind of look at just like the lengthy tree of the Kubiaks and the Shanahans. And it's, sort of like when you see TJ Watt play really well, you're like, oh, okay, maybe that was more obvious because JJ Watt was awesome, right? Well, it's like, I mean, Kyle Shanahan's dad was great, and Kyle Shanahan has proven to be a great play caller and a great coach. And I think you just sort of think, all right, if Clint Kubiak can do this in a couple of spots, how much of a drop-off is there going to be for a guy who hasn't called plays before that's stepping in? And so I think that's a big deal. The Kenneth Walker thing matters. Defensively, it's a little bit harder to maintain the same level of performance year over year versus offensively. So I think that's a little bit of a red flag, but it's a really good team. Like they should, I mean, I guess like out of respect for how they played, they should be the Super Bowl favorites. I don't think they should be. Like, I would put the Rams above them. I think that the Chiefs at 14-1 is really kind of surprising down there, even though there's some stuff going on with various players and they're trying to deal with Mahomes' injury and all of that. But yeah, like I get it. It's fine. I certainly would not bet the Seahawks at 8-1. I think you're chasing after a team that maybe could take a little bit of a step back, but certainly has a talent to get back there.
Yeah, we'll talk about Mahomes and the Chiefs because they made a move today, which was much needed when it comes to salary cap space. Mahomes taking some less money. We'll talk about the Chiefs. I'm in agreement with you guys. I also think that the road is going to be tougher. They had a pretty easy regular season schedule. I think they face a lot of improved teams. And then look at the postseason. Pretty much.
Joe, are you talking about the Seahawks or the
Seahawks? The Seahawks.
Okay,
Yeah,
like the easy schedule.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the schedule of last year, and not as easy as the Patriots, but you look at their schedule, like it was pretty easy. If we're talking the offense in general, Sam Darnold still had the third most interceptions in the NFL, and I know he had all the pieces around him, but I think if they faced some tougher teams, maybe they wouldn't have had as good of a regular season schedule. In the postseason, they really only had to get past the Rams because the Niners game was pretty much pointless. Kicking 5 field goals, went 5 for 5, but if they didn't, and it was a team that had a better offense than the Patriots did, would they have won? I don't know. The defense we have, that's undeniable, historic defense in the regular season. We always talk about DVOA, 6th best DVOA in NFL history. And you talked about it, head coach Mike McDonald, the 30 youngest head coach to win a Super Bowl in NFL history, and he's only going to have a year under his belt, now a Super Bowl already under his belt. So can they? Yes, with the current construction. I do think losing Kenneth Walker could hurt, though. They'll have the cap space, though, 6th most cap space currently. So interested to see what they do. I agree with you guys. I never think there's much value betting on a Super Bowl team to do it back-to-back seasons. Let's go to the Patriots side of things. I'm going to read how our producer Ben put this to me. I don't agree with it. Are you still buying stock in New England, or was this a fluke, RJ White?
Fluke isn't the right word, right? I think that they're a good team, an ascending team.
Fraud.
I'm
just kidding.
They're an improving team that got there early, right? You think of how bad they were the year before. You just don't expect that type of turnaround in one season. So, if they would have done this in year 2, year 3, and had like a medium type jump, like the Lions kind of did those 3 years where they stepped up from being a terrible team to almost in the playoffs to a Super Bowl contender, nobody would say anything about fluke or anything like that. So I think they are due for some regression. The schedule's obviously going to be tougher. The offense should probably get better too. So we'll see if they can progress with the offensive line. At left tackle might be an issue moving forward. Drake May was seeing ghosts, aside from the other quarterback on the other side of the ball in that Super Bowl. So if they can protect him and that doesn't stun his development at all, they should be solid again. I would take them to win the division over the Bills, even though they're the underdog in that division. So I think they will be back in the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to make as deep a run just because everything lined up so well this year.
Yeah. Larry?
Look at the schedule. You have the Seahawks, you have the Jaguars, you have the NFC North, and you have the AFC West. I mean, you went from, we know, the easiest schedule in history to a very challenging schedule. So they're going to be a good team, but they're going to take a big step back just in terms of that. You have to address the offensive line. You have to get another edge rusher. And you have to get some more explosiveness at receiver. We'll see what they do with Stephon Diggs. Drake May in the postseason with the 7 fumbles, the 4 picks. I think there's still some questions to be answered. And hopefully they get the better weapons around him, get some better protection. That was ridiculous. Allowing one offensive lineman allowing 14 pressures in a game is unheard of.
Yeah, that was a major, headline everyone was talking about, the left side specifically, just young offensive line in general. We knew it was going to be an issue. It had been an issue. They were still pulling out wins, and clearly that did not work against the Seahawks. One thing I'll say before I send it to you, Will, our Tyler Sullivan over at CBS Sports does have the Patriots as a top 5 team to land A.J. Brown. That would obviously help Drake May have a true number 1. Will Brinson, Patriots, you call him a fraud, not a fluke. Is that any better?
I just like to give you a hard time with the Patriots. I do think. Look, I mean, I wrote a note in the rundown. Scheduling Moses ain't showing up in 2026.
Yeah,
and I mean, that's the truth. And I think so. I mean, two things can be true. One, the Patriots are a good football team. Actually, three things can be true. One, the Patriots are a good football team. Like Mike Vrabel's great. Drake May, high pick, and he looks like he's going to be the guy. And I don't think that's a fluke. Two, the Patriots had an insanely easy schedule, and then got an even like crazier run out in the postseason in terms of who they had to play in the playoffs up until the Super Bowl when they drew the Seahawks. And then three, like the Patriots can take a step back in terms of how many wins they have, Drake May's overall stats, and they can still be a better team. Like that happens all the time. We see teams do that in the NFL all the time where they have a worse record than a different version of their own team, and yet it's clear that they're a better version of that team on actually playing. And like to Larry's point about the scheduling, right? I mean, you are now, if you're the Patriots, you're drawing, I believe it's the two divisions you get are the NFC North and the AFC West. That is hard. Like that is really, really hard. They could, the Raiders now we think they'll probably be a little bit better. They might get, who knows, they might get the Mendoza bump and all of a sudden like they're frisky. And then the NFC West, the NFC North, like I think the Vikings will take a bounce back a little bit. The Bears are on the rise. And then you have the Lions who should bounce back a little bit as well. So like then you get the first place teams. You have to play the Seahawks. You have to play the Jags. It's just a way, way, way tougher schedule this year. And so I think the Patriots take a step back, but I don't think they're going to be like a worse team. You could almost even argue that making the Super Bowl like wasn't the best thing for them. Like,
Agreed.
That just because it raises expectations so high.
Expectations, but yeah, I mean, like draft scenarios, obviously not as ideal. I think for the Patriots is the good part of it. The silver lining is they have the core pieces. You have your quarterback, you have your coach, your OC, Zach Cornell, the official DC, which I assumed they were going to do. They did. I think they were a few years too early. I was shocked that they made this run even with the easy schedule. I was shocked that they made it through even with the weather and the backup quarterbacks in the postseason. I thought the Patriots were far too early when it comes to having Vrabel as the first-year head coach. Just the second year for Drake May, how young this team was, not having enough weapons. The backfield they're still trying to iron out. Now moving forward, they have the cap space. Curious to see what they do with it. Just outside the top 10 when it comes to that, over $40 million. But I agree. I echo everything you guys said. The schedule is going to be very different than what they saw this past season. But the good sign is that they have the core when it comes to the quarterback and the head coach. They just have to get the pieces around it. Let's talk about some other teams now.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Would you rather?
I love this game.
No. We're not playing.
Okay. All right.
MFK. Okay. Would you rather be the Buffalo Bills or the New England Patriots for the long term, RJ?
It's a tough question. I would say the Bills just because, like, I believe in Josh Allen more than Drake May. As good as Drake May was this year, there were some flaws in his game. If you put Josh Allen in that system with, Mike Vrabel as his coach, I think that they're Super Bowl favorites, right? So it's kind of like you get the quarterback on one end, you get the coach and a pretty ascending defense on the other end. But I'm going to kind of go with the quarterback side of it and say, even if the coach doesn't work out for Buffalo, it's easier to find one of those than it is a guy as elite as Josh Allen. So
yep. But if we're talking sorry, RJ, finish.
No, my lean is Allen, but I don't think it's slam dunk either way.
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to hear what everybody, but I think it speaks to the fact that like it's like this, like a year ago, this would have been like, what are you kidding? Like you're
crazy. Yeah. In my mind, though, the fact that the Patriots got one quarterback, got one head coach, flubbed on the both of them, drafted another quarterback, got another head coach, got to the Super Bowl before Josh Allen ever could. Like, I know how good Josh Allen is. I just think the fact that the Patriots have done what they've been able to do in this short time and Josh Allen hasn't been able to in Buffalo. Larry, any quick thoughts there before we go to the other teams?
No, let's get to the next topics. We can talk about Bills Patriots all summer.
All right, yeah, true. One team that made the playoffs this year that won't next season, Larry.
It's going to be the Steelers. Not so inspired by the coaching decisions, bringing in Mike McCarthy and Patrick Graham. What are you going to do at quarterback? That's another big issue. This team was fortunate, classic Mike Tomlin style, plus 12 in turnover margin. They got outgained on a yards per play basis. So I think the Steelers take a step back.
Yep, I'm right there with you. They do have money to spend, 12 total draft picks. All of that is great, but they have a lot of questions to answer. You said it at quarterback, wide receiver, corner, and safety. They could lose 3 of their top 4 safeties in free agency. Defensive line when it comes to injuries and age. And it's a massive shift after 19 years with Mike Tomlin. Mike McCarthy not coming off the couch, but took a little break. I don't know how that fit is going to be. I think the division's tougher. So I'm going to go with you in the Steelers. Both RJ and Will on the Panthers. RJ?
Yeah, first of all, I'm disappointed in Will for not being the ultimate troll and taking the Patriots here. I thought that was
yeah, that's true.
That was a missed
I
call.
mean, there's 2 layup answers, and all of us are backing one of them. So I just think 6 of the Carolina's 8 wins were by 3 points. That led to an awful point differential overall. That was correlated with like a 6.5 win team, very similar to that time the Bills broke their streak with Tyrod Taylor and they finally got to the playoffs, but it wasn't a great team. I think that's kind of how we're looking at Carolina moving forward, where they kind of still need to do a lot of work to get that team into a place where they could return to the playoffs. And then you look at the rest of the division, probably going to be better next year. New Orleans seemed to get better late in the year, second year for Tyler Shuck. Atlanta could have made a smash hire with Stefanski. I really like them moving forward. And then Tampa Bay still lurks. They seem like they might be on the decline, but it seemed like a lot of things went wrong for Tampa Bay. They might be back to being a 9-10 win team. And, Carolina could very well finish last in that division, just the way it's lined up. So I think them and Pittsburgh are the easy answers. And, you can make arguments all day for why neither one of them are going to get to the playoffs.
Well,
yeah. I mean, if you're thinking smart, you do say the Patriots and you get the troll job in, but I wasn't thinking, obviously. I think it is, I agree with RJ. It's either the Panthers or the Steelers. I mean, you could throw out like Houston as a wild card if you want to like believe in the CJ Stroud offseason trade rumors, which are, kind of batty to think about. Injuries will cause 1 or 2 of these other teams to miss clearly, but I just think if you look at the Panthers and they had a negative like 70-point differential. I mean, that is the number one thing when you start to look at will teams make it back to the playoff, will teams get into the playoffs, or will teams miss the playoffs next year? Number one thing you should look at is Pythagorean wins, and which is basically equates to the point differential. And so the Panthers were not an 8-9 team. Maybe they take like a similar like the step they could have taken this coming year, and Bryce Young gets a little bit better, and they're still in the hunt. But I think the division will be significantly improved. So yeah, I think the Panthers is the answer. Even though,
Steelers, Panthers, we're taking the easy way out. Flip side of this, a team that didn't make the playoffs that will next season, and there's so many options. The 5 teams with the shortest odds to win the Super Bowl from last year all missed the playoffs. The Ravens, the Chiefs, Lions, Commanders, Bengals. So you can make an argument certainly for all of them. We sort of teased the Chiefs' moves off the top. They restructured Mahomes' contract, lowering his salary cap number from 78.2 to 34.65 to free up all that salary cap space, which means what, Will Brinson?
Well, I think that the Chiefs are trying to go after some talent and add, I saw it like on Twitter, like right as we were coming on. So like, I don't know the extent of it, but apparently there's another lawsuit involving Rashee Rice, which is not great. That's going to linger. You have the Mahomes injury, of course. I think he'll be back in time to start the season and be fine. It's always easier this time of year and in August to talk yourself into, like I can look at the teams who missed the playoffs in the AFC and see, 4 teams really quickly that I think will make the playoffs, but there's only 7 teams in each side of the bracket. The same thing goes for the NFC, where you can talk yourself into a bunch of teams. I'm just going to base this on Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, humiliated after what happened this season, after missing the playoffs, bounce back season. And if you give me the Chiefs, like I think the Chiefs are good betting everywhere across the board with their current prices.
Yep. And like I said, the cap space now, we're seeing George Pickens, Travis Etienne, Breece Hall, Kyle Pitts tied to the Chiefs. I think any of those would be a huge boost. And the best part about them being embarrassed and going 6-11 is this is the first time in a long time they're not facing a first place schedule. So I'm with you, Will.
We'll have a good draft pick too
on the Chiefs. Yep. I'm with you on the Chiefs. RJ, talk to me about the Colts.
Yeah, Chiefs are a pretty obvious answer. Lions would have been an obvious answer too. I kind of wanted to steer away from there, go with somebody different. And the Colts were maybe the best team in the league the first half of the season. Definitely one of the best teams in the league. And then we saw the Daniel Jones injury. Now, can they do it without Daniel Jones? I mean, before last year, Daniel Jones wasn't considered that special of a player. So I think they can go out, get another quarterback, and have a successful run again with that defense that still has Sauce Gardner after that midseason trade. and is still looking pretty strong. So I think the pieces are in place. If you can hit on a quarterback, and Shane Steichen has shown that he can maximize what he has at quarterback over the last few years, doing work with Anthony Richardson, winning games with him, even though the stats weren't there. Gardner Minshew, you get Riley Leonard looked solid in those few things. So, if they go out and they get a guy, maybe the MVP candidate I'm going to talk about as a dark horse here in a little bit, or one of those type of guys that have a little bit higher ceiling, I think, there's Seahawks potential there, if it all comes together. So I like the Colts. We know the AFC South is very topsy-turvy, which Larry's going to talk about as well. But sooner or later, the teams at the bottom are going to stop passing the Colts, and it's going to be the Colts, the one that ascend and get to that division title for the first time since, I believe, 2020.
Yeah, they looked like world beaters at the start of the season, one of the best teams in the NFL before all those injuries. Larry, the Titans, yeah.
I was going to say really quickly on the Colts too. Like, I think one thing that is kind of underrated with Indianapolis in this coming season is like Jim Irsay. He passed away like late in the offseason last year. He had a big hand in like a lot of personnel stuff, and in terms of like decision making. Like, I'm pretty sure he's the reason why they have Anthony Richardson on the roster. But I think that it's a little more stable now, which I like for this team going into free agency and in the draft.
Yeah. All right, Larry.
Well, one of the teams that could jump over the Colts, who always seem to be in that middle tier in the division, is the Titans. The most cap space in the league, over $100 million. You could add people like, Wan'Dale Robinson, Romeo Doubs, Kwity Paye. You have the quarterback already, where the Colts, we don't know, when Daniel Jones is going to be healthy. We don't know who they're going to bring in. You have the right quarterback, and Brian Daboll is a guy who we already saw what he did with Josh Allen, and he is very, very high on Cam Ward. And Cam Ward finished the season very strong. I think Robert Saleh is a guy who can get that defense playing better. He's a rah-rah guy. Look at the schedule also. You get the Jets, you get the Giants, you get the Commanders, you get the Browns, you get the Raiders, you get the Steelers. There are a lot of winnable games. I can see the Titans getting to 9 or 10 wins.
Larry, because I don't want to go too long on these, I want to swing it back to you for favorite early division winner bet. Packers was a team I was looking at as well.
Yeah, the Lions are the early favorite in that division. Not far behind is Green Bay. And Green Bay doesn't need to do a lot except get healthy, basically. They had so many key guys like Tucker Kraft, like Micah Parsons, guys who, if they come back, just raise the level of this team. And they're going to lose their left tackle, but they have Jordan Morgan ready to step in. They're going to lose Romeo Doubs, but Matthew Golden finally showed up. I think it was finally in the playoffs where he showed up and showed his potential. So I think they have the right pieces. They don't really need to do too much in free agency. I like Jonathan Gannon taking over the defense there. The Packers, just a little bit healthier, should win that division.
Yep, I'll talk a lot about the Packers in a little bit. RJ, Will, you guys are looking at the West. Will, the Chiefs again?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Chiefs is too easy. Maybe it's not easy. I mean, the AFC West is tough. Like, if the Raiders get Mendoza,
hey, you're getting plus money.
and Kubiak is, like a really good head coach and a really good play caller for that team. Like, now you have him, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, excuse me, and then of course the forgotten Chiefs, who are almost 2-1 to win the division. That is crazy town. And I realized that they were terrible last year, and they do have a lot of things to fix, but they had that better draft pick. They have. I think a very motivated Patrick Mahomes, motivated Andy Reid. I think they come back with a bit of a fury here, and we see. Also, by the way, the change from Matt Nagy to Eric Bieniemy, you could basically track Patrick Mahomes' explosive plays down the field, and obviously Tyreek Hill was a factor, but it was like when Bieniemy was there, he was explosive down the field. Nagy comes in, and they just dink and dunk underneath. So I'd be curious to see. That could be a pretty big change for that offense. So I'll take the Chiefs and go head-to-head with RJ here.
Yeah, like I said, plus money compared to last year. They were minus 145 favorites. The Broncos were 4-1, RJ. Now they're getting much more respect at the market.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the Chiefs, remember, Will, a few years ago, we were doing our preview shows and the Chiefs were like plus 150 and everybody's getting excited about the Chargers and maybe a little sleeper, action for the Raiders. And people were talking themselves into it. And I think we were the idiots that were like, yeah, Chargers, they're going to finally beat them. and the Chiefs dominated them that year. And so it kind of feels like that situation again. But I look at these odds and I see the Broncos, the number 1 seed in the AFC, as third in their division at plus 210. It just seems like a great value. I know there's holes in Bo Nix's game. They played around that. They won a ton of close games, just like the Chiefs last year. So he's going to need to get better, and they're going to need to start, they're not going to get as lucky in close games. You shouldn't be playing 13, 11 games against the Jets like they did in midseason. But it just seems like good value. Third in the division at plus 210 to back the Broncos here, who are very strong outside of the quarterback position and might be able to go out with him on a rookie deal and add some more talent, especially more talent at receiver, to help with this solid run game they already have. If he has more weapons downfield, then he can start throwing downfield better and hitting those weapons. Maybe they'll go get the A.J. Brown. Maybe they go get guys like that. This offense could get pretty dangerous.
Yeah, I will say I was happy to face Jared Stidham in the postseason. Bengals are a team I'm going to talk about, AFC North, to be honest. I was writing up the Ravens, and then I'm like, this is a way too early show. I'm not going to give a minus 110 division favorite. Bengals, I know it's scary. Hear me out. I see a drop-off for the Steelers, like I mentioned. The Browns likewise have a lot of questions on offense. The Ravens are the favorite for a reason. They have the core. But the O-line took a step back. The defense has some gaps and some questions. Derrick Henry's 32. Just saying, Lamar is 28, which is not old, but the injuries are clearly catching up to him with his style of play. The Bengals have the quarterback. They have the receivers. The core is coming back. The offense can, as we saw, keep them in games, even when Joe Burrow is not on the field. They're the only one in the division keeping their head coach. The defense, as we know, needs to be better. But you would think after getting worse last season, they're going to attack free agency the right way. They're projected to have over $60 million in cap space when it's all said and done. And with the pieces that they do have, a lot of those guys are young. They have room to grow and develop. You say goodbye to Trey Hendrickson, be done with that saga, and just move on. It's kind of ballsy, I get it, but it's a way too early NFL preview show, and that's what I'm going to go with. Bengals, don't make me look stupid, please. Make me look smart. I look really smart. Who plays in the NFC Championship, Will Brinson?
The Rams and the 49ers. So 49ers pick up Raheem Morris. Love the hire. You lose Robert Saleh, of course, as your defensive coordinator. But Robert Saleh is great. I think Raheem Morris is a defensive coordinator. Obviously had great success with the Rams previously. So I think maybe they get rid of that electrical substation out in Santa Clara. That might be a good idea. A little bit more injury luck for the 49ers. I think they bounce back a bit. And I think the Rams are going to have another monster year. They return basically everyone. You lose some offensive linemen, retirement, Rob Havenstein. But I think that the Rams, with what they have and their less needs ability to get great young players later in the draft, I think the Rams I think it'll be a great division. I'm just going to take two teams to come out and face each other in the NFC Championship game, which ultimately ended up being the real Super Bowl.
Yeah, and 2 first-round picks. All of us really
went
out
they have
on
the Falcons first round,
Yeah, all of us really went out on a limb. We all have the Rams. So RJ, who do they go up against?
Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles. Much is going to depend on offseason moves, right? And the Eagles team without A.J. Brown is not one I really want to back on their odds. But I do think that they have a good enough defense, an ascending defense, Vic Fangio coming back there, that can kind of be the signature of the team, much like the Seahawks, and the offense doesn't have to do that much. Mm-hmm. They play in probably one of the more easier divisions, aside from the NFC South. That you're going to need to win out for. I think the NFC North and NFC West teams all going to have to beat up on each other. So, outside shot, they go out and get the number 1 seed, in that division. At the very least, I believe they will win the division. I think out of the 8 divisions, they're the only one that won last year that is favored to repeat. So that's interesting. When you look at division odds, that only one of the 8 teams is projected to repeat. And I think the Seahawks might slightly be favored now, but this was, when I looked at it coming right out of the Super Bowl. So the path seems easiest for them to go out and play the Rams. Who I think are just a very strong team. Matt Stafford, swan song, go out and they'll be hungry after just missing this year and go out and probably win the whole thing.
Speaking of Seattle, Larry, Rams, Seahawks.
Yeah, I think we're going to run it back. They were clearly a cut above everybody else. I think maybe the Rams go get Rashid Shaheed, who basically, took away the number 1 seed when he started that comeback with the punt return touchdown. And the Rams were so bad on special teams. They have to address corner, but they have number 13 and number 29. Those are 2 first-round picks that they can use. Plus, you get Stafford and the core back. And we talked about the Seahawks being very well positioned with the cap space, with the number of unrestricted free agents. It's really not too many. Usually you see these Super Bowl teams, get so much depleted, so much defections, but I think both of these teams are really well positioned to run it back.
The idea of Rashid Shaheed with Matthew Stafford did some like butterflies in my stomach. Just saying that.
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot the Rams fan. Adam Schefter also just tweeted that the Seahawks are officially for sale, and the sale of the Seahawks is expected to set a new record for the price of a sports franchise. So that's interesting. I'm going to go Rams-Packers. We sort of already touched on the Packers, but they truly look like one of the best, I think, teams in the NFL at 9-3 until their wrath of injuries. They have the pieces on offense. Micah's health is massive, but that makes them a legit defense. They have a talented secondary. So I like the Packers. I'll go Packers-Rams. Who plays in the AFC Championship, RJ?
I'm going to go Chiefs Broncos. I think the Chiefs get a wild card and win out. If they just get to the playoffs, good luck for everyone else. So I think that it's going to be hard to stop them, even if they're on the road every game. Once Patrick Mahomes is healthy, even if he's not healthy to start the year, it's definitely going to be healthy by the time we get to next January, right? So I think they'll be tough to stop. Hopefully they'll get the receiver room fixed, but he's made it work before. So they have one of the best weapons in the game, and then. I'll take the Broncos to win the division, and then meet them in that AFC Championship game, much like Seahawks Rams this past year, because I think that might be the best division in football when you throw in the Chargers as well.
Okay, well,
I'm going with the Chiefs against the Bills. I think I was the last one to fill out this particular section of the rundown, and no one had picked Mahomes against Josh Allen. It seems like the market sentiment, obviously the Chiefs having a rough season, and then the Bills, moving on from Sean McDermott. It feels like in general, everybody in the market is kind of down on the Bills. Like the Joe Brady hire didn't necessarily do it for everybody. Still Josh Allen, still Patrick Mahomes. They'll both be fully healthy week one. So I'll take Bills over Chiefs. Yeah, Bills against the Chiefs. Excuse me.
I'm going with the Broncos and the Chargers. I think the Broncos, you get Bo Nix back. Maybe you add an Alec Pierce, a Breece Hall. Give him the weapons that he needs. The defense is absolutely loaded. And the Chargers in a similar spot. The defense shouldn't change much. Minter's replacement was in the system for a few years. You get a healthy offensive line protecting Justin Herbert, and you get Mike McDaniel calling the plays. I think it sets up really well for the Chargers.
All right, we've discussed the Chiefs. Chiefs is one side of mine. Jags are the other. I know that Travis Etienne likely to be gone in free agency. We can't predict any of these moves, though. So I'm basing it off of last season. They finished with 8 straight wins. The defense looked good. Trevor Lawrence was playing great. And they went 13-4 with Parker Washington as their top receiver. So I don't know. I think if they add anything else, they can only go up from there. All right, let's do these as quick hitters. Super Bowl matchup and winner, Larry.
Rams over Chargers. I think it's going to be a classic, but I will let Matthew Stafford go out on top.
RJ?
Rams over Chiefs. Chiefs are undeniable, and they'll get back to the championship game. But Rams, Stafford back for one last ride. If they get the 1 seed, they'll be tough to stop. So I like Rams over Chiefs.
Will?
Rams over Bills. Why not run it back for the 5th straight year? I'm basically morphing into Pete Prisco, where I just pick the same thing every year for 20 years.
Yeah, and then it cashes once, and everybody who didn't know, you did it every year. You look brilliant. Packers over Chiefs. I know it's crazy, but it's an early show. I'm doing it for a reason. And it's not that crazy. They're tied with the Eagles, the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Lions, and the Ravens with the third shortest odds to win it all. So it's really not that crazy. They have a lot of free agents possibly on the move. I know I'm banking on Micah's health. But if all goes well, yeah, they can win a Super Bowl. Any long shot MVP candidates? Last one, Will Brinson.
So I tossed in an extra one at the last second. I've got 2. I think Michael Penix Jr. at 150-1 is at least worth a look. You don't know what's going on with the injury, but that's baked into it. And with Kevin Stefanski in Atlanta, I would expect that offense to dramatically improve immediately. And I think Penix could have a huge year. They're supposed to move on from Cousins, although there's a lot up in the air. So it's 150-1. So it's a way long shot. But then the other one, I'm going to sort of ride Larry's coattails here a little bit. Look, these second year guys, they break out, man. Drake May, second year. Cam Ward, 66-1. If the Titans go win that division, if the Titans win that division in Cam Ward's second year, he's going to get some MVP buzz. That's just how it is.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's got the talent and the skill set. They just need to do some stuff around him. Hopefully upgrading coaching. We'll see.
That's fair. All right. RJ?
Yeah, Penix was actually the first pick I put in there, and then looking into that injury, I just don't know that I can trust him to be back and play enough and effectively enough, or even enough games to win MVP. So I kept looking down the board, and I went down and down and down, and I picked the guy that was much like my Darnold pick a couple of years ago with the Vikings when he joined them, and that's Mac Jones. It's not going to happen in San Francisco, obviously, but they should cash in on what should be peak value with Mac Jones. We just saw what Sam Darnold did. And so he feels like in that same vein of a journeyman who could hit it big with the right system. And I see two open, quarterback situations where he could go in and be awesome with two guys who were very good at maximizing their quarterback, Shane Steichen in Indy, and Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. So he lands with either one of those. 300-1 is going to be an amazing number because I think he wins the job in either case. And he has a lot of success there, and those teams could win their divisions with him at quarterback. So love taking a little sprinkle on him at 300-1 right now.
A lot of crossover too with the Steichen, Shanahan, Kevin or KOC quarterbacks who've had success on multiple teams.
Yep. And I will say I saw Mac Jones in San Francisco, and he has a massive Mac Jones diamond chain. So maybe some white boy swag. I don't know. Didn't know he had it like that. But
I'm out now.
Mac Jones on the Colts knocking Drake May out of the AFC Championship game. That's what I'm here for. The ultimate revenge game.
I'll throw up Larry Hartstein.
Can we revisit this in week 14 of next year? Ben, can you hold this tape? I know the assignment was to give a long shot. I just think Justin Herbert is set up for a monster season. When you talk about getting back to all-pro type offensive linemen, they're going to do some other improvements on the offensive line. Who knows what kind of weapons they're going to add. You get Mike McDaniel in there calling plays. Mike McDaniel has not had a quarterback like Justin Herbert, and I think he's going to take him to another level that we've all been waiting to see. And again, it's a regular season award. So even if he does what he does in the playoffs, it won't matter.
Agreed. I love Justin Herbert. I'd love to see him win that. Jackson Dart is a player that was thrust into his starting role, still finished with 15 passing touchdowns, just 5 picks, 9 rushing touchdowns. Not a ton of wins, but he kept them close in those games. And that was with injuries to his number 1 wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. That was without Cam Scatterboot to balance out the passing game with the running game. I think having his number 1 receiver, the presence in the backfield opens up more opportunities, having a full season of those first team reps. And I think if all goes right, regardless, they're going to get more than 4 wins, you would think. He will make a strong case for MVP. So Jackson Dart is my selection. Also, AJ Brown was seen wearing a G-Men t-shirt on his IG story. He's probably just trying to start drama, but that could be cool.
Ravens from 5 to 11 to 11 to 5 in John Harbaugh's first year. So.
Okay. All right. There you go. This is our early show. We said it. So hopefully we gave you guys some value. Larry Hartstein, Will Brinson, RJ Waite, Caludia Bellofatto. Do we have a little promo code for our friends, Ben? I don't know. I can't hear Ben. So I'm talking to him through the show. Maybe not. I don't know. Either way, we'll see you guys soon. We'll be posting on Twitter, letting you guys know when our next show is. Hopefully we'll do some other future show. Of course, free agency has gone wild. So for all that and more, check out sportsline.com. Of course, there's picks on there every day. We have SportsLine promo code. It's at the bottom of the board. Here we go. Early, get your first 30 days free. So do that now. Sign up for SportsLine. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the Early Edge, guys. Appreciate you. Have a good rest of your day.